just put down adopt network. Make sure I can see my object. We'll put down a smoke object, pyrosolver, let's start with 4, 4, and 4, and 1.5. Let's see where that gets us. All right, not too bad. Division size we'll put down to 0.1. We will source smoke. Velocity should be at add. We're not going to take any incoming velocity. And we will grab our density here. We'll make sure we put down a gas resize dynamic. Pump that in. We'll delay that for 4 frames. And our max bounds will manually say at, we'll see how big it's going to get, but let's say 8, 8, 8, and then we'll move that up maybe 3.5 units. In our SOP to DOPS, we didn't actually have a temperature, so I'm going to say density is going to be our temperature here. Let's hide everything else and let's solve on creation frame. Now we have one little issue here. Doesn't seem like we actually have density, so let me check that our volume here is in fact named density. It doesn't look like it has a name at all. So let's just put down a name and we will call that density. There we go. That was a pretty quick sim. So I'm going to change to multi-field here. And for density, we'll put in density. And for diffuse field, we'll put in density as well. Just kind of give this a medium gray color. And we can play around with the density scale, the shadow scale, as well as the amount that we are adding into density every frame here. So even without adding in any velocity, we're still looking at something that looks like a pretty decent dirt hit. So we may just want to play around a little bit. We'll try adding that pump in, see what it does for us. So let's grab another source volume here, change that to source pump, grab our pump, put that into the third input, the velocity update. Now we're going to see we're getting these kind of mushrooms So that's a little bit high. Maybe we'll just take half of that. Now let's just start adding some shaping in here. So we'll add some disturbance. We'll disturb the velocity field. Block size, we'll choose 0.1, I think. Control field, temperature, full influence, and then control remap field. We'll just cut it off pretty close to 0. I don't know exactly what that's going to do for us yet. I'm going to dial confinement up quite a bit. And confinement, we will use confinement as the control field. We may want to change that later, but let's just see what our simulation looks like. I'm thinking we need much more disturbance. We'll take a quick look at our velocity here. I can see that disturbance isn't doing too much of anything. So I'm going to turn the control field off for a second just to see what's happening there. And it seems like the control field is just wiping out the disturbance. So let's bring the control influence down to 0.6. So we're hitting the edge of the box. As you can see, we'll probably want to get a bigger box there. So let's do that. We'll go to 12 by 12. And we're cutting off the top there as well. So for our bounds, let's add double the padding. That seems to have helped. We're at the top of the box, but that's okay because we'll be cropped into a 960/540 window. Let's take a look at this through a camera as well as changing our background color. Oops, pixel aspect ratio there, aperture, something like that. Okay, so back into DOPS, let's just get a framing here. Let's say we're going to frame somewhere like that. So we need a little bit more room vertically. So we'll go to 10 and 4.5. Let's bring in much less of our source volume. Adjust our visualization a little bit. So we'll go up on our density, kind of stay around here for shadow, and maybe we'll kind of crunch it just a little bit here. Their min and max. Try to keep some of the characteristics of the emitter. And we can start looking at some flipbooks now. So what we may want to do is try to clip out what happens here as the leader particles kind of die, and we get these little poofs at the end. But in terms of this main feeling of the dirt hit, I think it's looking pretty good. I think we should look at that at higher resolution. So let's go to 0.6. Okay, so we're going to have to modulate confinement and disturbance a little bit because we get a bit fuzzy there at the end. I think we might also want less dissipation, so we start to lose a lot of the smoke here. So let's do this. Let's take our dissipation down quite a bit. And for confinement, I'm going to use density. We can just do that as a 0 to 1. We'll just kind of bump it up there a little bit in the middle. And disturbance. Let's bump that up, and as well, to help with that, we'll bump the cooling rate up quite a bit. Let me take a quick look at our last sim. I don't think that we need to adjust the temperature very much. But maybe what we'll do is we'll keyframe velocity. So keyframe that pump. So we like it at frame up until frame 8 or so, and then say around 18 it starts not being so constructive for us. So I'm going to change that to manual. I'm going to go to the pump. And let's do this. Let's scale our velocity here. Then around 17, we'll go to 0. And maybe start off with 0.7. So that seems to have helped quite a bit. I do think our confinement is a little strong. I think our disturbance is a touch too strong as well. So I'm going to dial those down. And I know that we're hitting the edge of the box here. But I think we should just kick this thing out. and let it render. You know, because we can keep tweaking this all day long. But the lesson here is to show how to use particles to do this kind of dirt hit explosion. So all the tweaking can be done afterward. So I'm going to take my best guess here, and I am going to bring the disturbance down to 0.1 or 1.5 and the confinement down to 3 or maybe 2.5. The gas resize here, let's help ourselves out a bit. Just give it a little more padding. As well as our max bounds will go all the way up to 16 by 16 and then say 12 and 5.5. We'll bring our division size down to 0.04. Going to go to manual update here. We're going to go back into our this guy we don't need. He's not doing anything. Sorry about that. Let's go back into our emitter here, and for volume rasterized points, for our VDB, we'll bring that down to 0.06. I believe that's what we were at. Let's check really quickly. 0.04, sorry. We'll go to 0.04 for him. Fluid source, we'll just go to 0.8. I'm going to disable our file caches here. And we'll go to GeoNetwork, and we'll call this dirt hit import. Do a .io. Bring in our .net, and the .dop node is going to be smoke object 1. And we can choose, I believe all we need is smoke here. Density, velocity. We don't really need rest and temperature because we're not going to be using those for rendering. So I'm going to disable those. And for save to file, we'll just do 40 frames worth. And save that into here. Dirt hit sim $f.bgeo.sc. And there's one other thing that I want to do here really quickly. In our .net, I think we should have it interacting with a ground plane. So I'm going to just put down a ground plane. We'll use a static solver. We'll merge these together and go back up to our dirt hit import. And let's just check that the first frame has come in, which it looks like it has. All right, everything seems like it's working here. So I am going to save our file, and we're going to render.